It's time to take a look at stories making headlines in Nigerian newspapers. So now we have joining us Chris Kendengwandu on Skype. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Nice to see you join me right now. Great.
To be here.
Okay, let's start from Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint is where we start from right now, and it says, May Lafia, outrage trails federal government's 5 million naira fine on Nigeria info. And station yielded platform to guest for unverifiable news. That's the NBC is saying that. And commission seeking to gag media. Atiku is saying that as well. And don't use May Lafia as scapegoat. Shehu Sani said that. An action obscene, offensive in the democracy. MRA is saying that on board lie daggers drawn over amended code of the NBC. Right? That's the Blueprint. Let's go now to Daily Trust. Daily Trust newspaper says that amidst dwindling revenue, a weak naira, federal government says economy faces fresh hurdles. Nigeria vulnerable to further forex crisis, and experts profess solution to all of that. All right, from Daily Trust, let's go to Leadership newspaper now. Anti-terror war, foreign powers refusing to supply Nigeria weapons. That's the federal government is releasing this, or is revealing this as the case may be. ISWAP recruiting child soldiers. The multinational joint task force alerts Nigerians. An army can halt nation's drift to insecurity. Emir of Ankara is saying this, and we're making progress for to reverse U.S. visa restriction, as the president is saying this, and the promises to spend more on infrastructure for job creation. All right, that's all on the Leadership newspaper. National Economy is next now, and it says patronage of locally produced goods, services will empower Nigerians. The president is saying this. It commissions 17-story building for local content there. PMB apolitical with development. That's Siva is saying that. All right. I guess this will certainly interest my guests and even Nigerians on the patronage of locally made goods. Let's go to Daily Times now. Daily Times says energy initiatives delay kills firms. Energy initiatives delay kills firms. That's Daily Times. News Direct is next now and is on hate speech. Outrage as NBC sanctions radio station 5 million naira as board rejects amendments to broadcasting code. That's News Direct. Okay. Chris, let me come to you on the story that is on the front page of the national economy. National economy is focusing on one of the topics that has been on the front burner for so many years now. Patronizing made in Nigeria goods and services. And administration after administration have all advocated this, but how it is playing out is totally a different issue altogether. All right, but talk to us basically, what are you seeing when it comes to the issue of patronizing locally made goods and services? The president is advising on this right now.
Well, Mike, that's the way to go. We have no option that to patronize what we produce locally. Generally, over the years, we have this loss for foreign-made products to the extent that even as little as we are importing toothpick in the past, if you remember. Most often than not, anything made in Nigeria to us is inferior, but we prefer to buy things made in USA, made in England, and even to some extent China. And further enough, some of those, and some Nigerians have become so smart by half, by even the one that they produce here, what they now do is just quickly go and print label and just put made in Italy on some of these products, like the shoes are manufactured in Aba and the rest of them, where you see them, nice looking shoes. But because they know that Nigerians will not patronize them, they'll go around and print made in Italy on them and the rest of them, and you see them being patronized. So there's need for us to be able to conserve our foreign exchange, because whatever we purchase outside this country is also depleting the little resources we have in terms of foreign exchange could have been used for other things. So this is the way to go, and I commend the president and this administration for this move. And I just hope that Nigerians will also see the need for us to be able to continue to look inward, not only on goods and services, but other aspects of our national life, including even the COVID-19, which we are facing now, where some of us have been advocating for a homegrown solution to the problem of vaccine, instead of waiting for the ones that are produced in Russia, United States, or any other country. We can also look inward. So for me, this is the way forward. And some of us are already key to that. Mike, what I'm putting on is a made in Abba clothes. So I also enjoy it to also make you into that as well.
I can also say that my suit is made in Nigeria too. So.
Well, so I know. So that's what we are saying. Let us be patriots, Mike. So that's commendable.
All right. Now, the point there is, a lot of people have been saying that government has to be the one to lead the way. You mentioned COVID-19 earlier. Certainly, in the past months, during this pandemic, we saw how some fabric companies in Nigeria were given the go-ahead to produce local PPEs and even face masks and all of that, which is a good thing. We also see the federal government patronizing Nigerian automobile now, road safety, the military, several government parastatals now have bought a lot of the Made in Nigeria car, as the case be. Even TVC has invested so much into that, patronizing locally made good. But how much can still be done in such a way that Nigerians begin to see these things and government leading by example?
What we need to do is to be able to create enabling empowerment and also make it conducive for those into these products to be able to produce at a rate that is cheap enough for Nigerians, affordable for Nigerians to be able to buy. Mike, if you look at some of the things produced in Nigeria compared to what is produced outside, you see that Nigerians' products are very more expensive than that. So it makes it easier for some people to quickly import some of these things from abroad and bring them here. And that in itself stifles the manufacturer, those that manufactured here in Nigeria. So some of these things are even less expensive when you bring them from abroad. So, but you cannot blame the manufacturers. The problem of manufacturing in Nigeria is problematic. When you look at our power sector, where practically manufacturing industries have to rely almost 24 hours in generating power, that in itself adds to the cost. And so many other things. When you put this vis-a-vis the productions across the globe, you come to realize that it might be cheaper for some of these products being imported. So that is why some of these people. Don't forget also, Mike, that even in the United States, you have to realize that there are certain products that are not manufactured in the United States. Rather go and establish those companies in China, get it manufactured in China because of the cost, and get them, and they bring them back to the United States, which is why U.S. is always having a trade deficit with the China and the rest of them, which they are trying to balance now. So my own take is that the incentive should be there. Government should give all the necessary incentives to the local manufacturers in terms of tax, leaves, be able to access loans, then the power sector. Then if we can be able to get that right, then whatever we're producing will be cheaper for Nigerians to be able to look at. But if we continue to look at the situation where you want to buy a pair of shoes and a pair of shoes goes for about 10,000 Nigeria, and you can get, some people can get that for 5,000, then you will see that those selling those products might just decide to just go for the ones from abroad. So the basic thing is that having the will, the political will of our government to be able to help manufacturers to make sure that these things that produced locally are cheap enough for Nigerians.
All right.
And of course, I have with me in the studio an in-house analyst, Obani Akinwale. He joins me here in the studio to discuss this. Thank you so much for joining us on TV to Breakfast. And of course, it's a pleasure to always have you,
Good morning,
discuss these topical issues. Let's look at what we have on the daily newspapers. First off, we're taking the Blueprint. Blueprint has as its headline, May Lafia outrage trails FG's 5 million naira fine on Nigeria Info. And of course, interesting riders there for you to see and read more about the story. On the Daily Trust, we have Amid dwindling revenue, weak naira, FG says economy faces fresh hurdles. Nigeria vulnerable to further forex crisis. Experts prefer solutions. That's what you find on the Daily Trust newspaper. On the Leadership newspaper, you have anti-terror war. Foreign powers refusing to supply Nigeria weapon, says the federal government. On the national economy, you have patronage of locally produced goods. Services will empower Nigerians, says President Muhammad Buhari. That's what you find in the national economy. On the Daily Trust newspaper, it goes on to say that energy initiatives delay kills firms. That story, of course, you find on the Daily Times newspaper. And moving on to the News Direct, you have hate speech, outrage as NBC sanctions radio station 5 million naira as a rider as board rejects amendment to broadcasting code. You find that on page 2 of News Direct newspaper. But what we're going to be discussing this morning, of course, we've had a lot of persons discuss about the hate speech and the former deputy CBN governor's, detention and questioning and all that. But we're not going to discuss that this morning. But of course, pertinent to our discussion this morning is the anti-terror war, which is the headline on Leadership newspaper. It says anti-terror war, foreign powers refusing to supply Nigeria weapons. This was a statement made by the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed. What do you make of this? Because some analysts have said that we have not reached out to the international community as much as we should be doing. We've not, embraced the support on intelligence that they've provided so far. So do you see a contradiction here?
First of all, I will start by saying that I want to empathize or I want to sympathize with the Honorable Minister for Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, as regards the situation of weapon supply from international community. You agree with me that the Amnesty International report on human rights violation has not been on our side in the recent years. So the international community are so careful who they hand over the weapon to. But without taking the fact away from that, the other question I would have loved to ask is that, is international community also stopping us from doing intelligence gathering? I wouldn't know what role is national community playing in terms of community policing. Perhaps the Honorable Minister will help us to know better what international community is doing to ensure that the ISWAP, Boko Haram, and the bandits are able to recruit young people, as written in the newspaper, and the Nigerian authority is unable to have them back to school or possibly better their life. So for me, the government is not in position to make excuse. I recall vividly during the era of President Goodluck Jonathan, Alhaji Lai Mohammed was the spokesperson for the opposition party, and I know was very vocal. And one of his demands then was that we don't want rhetorics. The president was elected purposely because of his, we believe that he has capacity to wage war against the bandits, the ISWAP, the ISIS, or what have you, also to ensure that the economy is stable. Now coming back to table to tell us that because they are unable to get weapon, that is why we're unable to totally confront. Yes, it is true that our military are ill-equipped. Yes, it is true that they will need this supply. But again, what about the morale? What about the motivation for the military personnel? What about people being in military and they're expected to get to the top of the ladder and they're not getting there? Yeah. What about information sharing? What about the confidence of the community, of the populace in their security apparatus? What happens to looking at community policing?
But let me comment there, because we do not have so much time to discuss this. We've seen the government actually, take decisive steps. If you would say, you've seen them hold meetings, expanded meetings with the top security chiefs, with governors even asking the presidency for bailout fund to see how they can tackle insecurity in their various regions. How far do you think this can go? Very quickly.
I think bailout or bail-in is not the problem. The problem our security agency has is, first, there is no motivation for the security guys. Two, our intelligence gathering is still very, very low. And again, we cannot continue to centrally police or monitor or security for Nigeria. It is high time we decentralize the policing. It is easy for the chief, traditional chief in this council to be able to know his words. And so if you make security, in those days, when the oligarchy was in practice, if anything happens within your domain, the first person you contact is the high chief in that area. And it is applicable in an African way of intelligence gathering and of management. So if the European incursion of policing is not working, why don't we begin now to involve our traditional rulers, our religious leaders, to ensure that within your domain, we want you to ensure that you identify this bandit or this ISWAP. Within your domain, if this thing happens, you will be liable. You will see at that point in time, our traditional rulers will rise up. And again, people will begin to have trust in their traditional rulers, in their community leaders, other than going, because for instance, a lot of people do not believe that going to report security agencies, their life is not under threat, because you don't know who is who. So you could see when the governor of Borno was alleging that it's that Boko Haram, it's not Nigerian military that attacked him. So you could see that even in government, and there's lack of trust. So we need to improve our intelligence gathering, and if Boko Haram is giving them sugarcane, I think we should take these boys to Mr. Biggs or take them to any popular eatery so that whatever is enticing them to recruit more, the federal government should do a counter offer to ensure that we don't have more people joining the bad wagons, so that they can reduce the amount of manpower. And again, our security agencies need proper motivation. They need to improve on their morale so that they can give their best, and we will all be out of this wood together.
That's a very good anchor to end this. Thank you so much, Obani. Of course, it's always a pleasure to hear your thoughts on topical issues. Thank you for your thoughts. Well, that's the news. That's the news making the headlines on our major newspapers.